So, friends, Donald Trump just made clear in a very direct and concrete way that he does not back the blue, the police, the men and women of law enforcement. No, he backs those who beat the blue, who attack and assault the men and women of law enforcement. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, injustice is really having its moment in the sun, with Donald Trump's 1,500 pardons of those who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021, those who tried to stop the peaceful transfer of presidential power, those who tried to end American democracy, those who beat the blue. Let's start with the new reporting. This from the Associated Press. Headline: Trump issues sweeping pardons of 1,500 January 6 defendants, including rioters who violently attacked police. And that article begins: President Donald Trump on Monday pardoned more than 1,500 of his supporters charged with crimes in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, including people who assaulted police, using his clemency powers on his first day in office to dismantle the largest investigation and prosecution in Justice Department history. Among those set to be released from prison are defendants captured on camera committing violent acts on law enforcement as lawmakers met to certify President Joe Biden's 2020 election victory. Leaders of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys extremist groups convicted of seditious conspiracy in the most serious cases brought by the Justice Department will also be freed from prison after having their sentences commuted. Trump is directing the Attorney General to seek the dismissal of about 450 pending January 6 cases. The pardons were expected after Trump's years-long campaign to rewrite the history of the January 6th attack that left more than 100 police officers injured and threatened the peaceful transfer of power. Yet the scope of the clemency still comes as a massive blow to the Justice Department's effort to hold participants accountable over what has been described as one of the darkest days in American history. Trump has suggested in the weeks leading up to his return to the White House that instead of blanket pardons, he was going to look at the January 6 defendants on a case-by-case basis. Vice President J.D. Vance had said just days ago that people responsible for the violence during the Capitol riot obviously should not be pardoned. The pardons come weeks after Trump's own January 6 case was dismissed because of the Justice Department's policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. Had Trump lost the 2024 election, he may have ultimately stood trial in the same federal courthouse within view of the Capitol, where January 6 cases have been playing out over the last 4 years. More than 1,200 people have been convicted in the riot, including approximately 250 people convicted of assault charges. But the violence that day has been documented extensively through videos, testimony, and other evidence showing rioters, some armed with poles, bats, and bear spray, swarming the Capitol, quickly overrunning overwhelmed police, shattering windows, and sending lawmakers and aides running into hiding. Police were dragged into the crowd and beaten. One officer screamed in pain as he was crushed in a doorframe, and another suffered a heart attack after a rioter pressed a stun gun against his neck and repeatedly shocked him. Officers have described in testimony fearing for their lives as members of the mob hurled insults and obscenities at them. And friends, this NBC News reporting adds some additional information. Representative Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker of the House during the attack, called Trump's actions, quote, an outrageous insult to our justice system and the law enforcement officers who protected the Capitol that day. Quote, it is shameful that the president has decided to make one of his top priorities the abandonment and betrayal of police officers who put their lives on the line to stop an attempt to subvert the peaceful transfer of power, she said in a statement. Despite the president's decision, we must always remember the extraordinary courage and valor of the law enforcement heroes who stood in the breach and ensured that democracy survived on that dark day. More than 600 people were sentenced to incarceration, but only a small fraction of them are still behind bars. Many of those who are in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons were convicted of violent attacks on police officers protecting the Capitol during an assault in which January 6 defendants were armed with firearms, stun guns, flagpoles, fire extinguishers, bike racks, batons, a metal whip, office furniture, pepper spray, bear spray, a tomahawk axe, a hatchet, a hockey stick, knuckle gloves, a baseball bat, a massive Trump billboard, Trump flags, a pitchfork, pieces of lumber, crutches, and even an explosive device. Friends, these pardons are obscene. They represent a searing injustice. They show a callous disregard for the victims of the Trump-inspired, Trump-incited Capitol attack. And yes, I take this personally, in part because I spent 30 years working with the good men and women of law enforcement, both military and civilian, both federal and local. I've gotten to know Harry Dunn. I've gotten to know Daniel Hodges. I take it personally because I knew Mike Fanone long before the Capitol attack. Decades ago, I worked murder cases with Mike Fanone when he was a street cop in Washington, D.C. with MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department. And I was a homicide prosecutor. I worked murder cases with Mike. Mike was the one who was repeatedly tased in the neck, had a number of heart attacks, and he heard the crowd yelling, "Kill him," with his own gun. And I've also gotten to know another victim, Aquilino Gonell. Sergeant Gonell has had a number of surgeries as a result of what Trump's mob did to him on January 6th. And here's what I want to end with, friends. There's this thing called VINE. It's a victim notification system, and it stands for Victim Information and Notification Every Day. And the VINE Victim Notification System is designed to do a number of things to try to keep victims of violent crime safe. And one of the things it does is it gives victims real-time notification if their attacker, their perpetrator, the person who assaulted them, is being released from confinement. And you know what happened to Sergeant Gonell's phone once Donald Trump started signing those 1,500 pardons? He started to get notification after notification after notification after notification. The person who assaulted you is being released. The person who assaulted you is being released. The person who assaulted you is being released, being released, being released, being released. Each call, each notification represents a different defendant being released, a different Trump supporter, a different Capitol attacker, a different person who assaulted Sergeant Gonell. So Donald Trump has decided to throw in his lot with the people who attacked, who assaulted, who beat, who damn near killed the police who were protecting the Capitol on January 6th. He has decided to make our nation less safe. He has decided that their victimization, the men and women of law enforcement, mean nothing. Well, it means something to us, and it will always mean something to us. And this is yet another black stain on Donald Trump and everything he represents. Because the one thing he does not represent, and he will never represent, is justice. And justice matters to the victims of violent crime, to the police officers who were there to save democracy that day, and to protect everyone in the Capitol, including the politicians, Democrats, independents, and Republicans. Yeah, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.